Hi YouTube, and welcome back to the third episode of the steel-plated Cat 973 build. So in the last episode we assembled the chassis and we are preparing everything for electronics, and I will continue installing some parts before I begin soldering the electronics. So I had to grind down this edge a little, and also on this edge, in order to make it close properly. So usually I paint these actuators black, but since I have the black vinyl just laying around, I'm using that because it's much easier and faster. I don't have to wait for the paint to set. So here I am going to use a battery to make the actuators extend so that I can mount the bucket properly. So the ripper is now mounted up and it's looking fantastic. So next I will move on to the actuators for the bucket. So these are some actuator covers made by Christian Trop. He's a fellow designer and they look very good on the actuators. So I'm going to put these on to the bucket actuators now. So all the actuators and the motors are now ready to be joined with the electronics. I will begin installing the electronics in just a bit, but first I will put some weights in here. Alright guys, so we are going to begin putting in the electronics, and these are the ESCs that I'm using for today. And this is a bidirectional ESC, which means you can drive two motors on this without mixing any channels on your transmitter. Now I'll try to show you how to connect this. It's very easy, and as I said, you don't have to use mixing, which is a great thing. And then we have two 1060 ESCs, one for the lifting motor, and I'm going to use this one for the bucket actuators. And then I've got two of these 30 amp ESCs. Now I do not recommend that anyone use these, because I have had so much trouble using these and I probably will regret using these again. However, I still have them laying on my shelf and I want to just get them out of here, so I am putting them into this loader just to hopefully have something working. I will be putting this one on the ripper and this one on the bucket actuators. Alright, before I begin, I'm going to tell you something about this ESC. You can get these in various sizes. I got 40 amps because I didn't know any better, and I should actually get a 60 amp. I've already tested this in my other track loader, and in fact this one has this ESC right now, and the ESC is not strong enough to drive the motors at their full capacity. However, it's strong enough to operate this machine with the ESC. You just don't get 100% of the potential. So anyway, I have some of these in stock and I want to use them, so let's put this in. And the first thing I will do, I will try to explain to you as best I can. The first thing I do is always connect all the ESCs to the same battery. So we are going to, all these wires are in the way. So we are going to cut these two off. Just use a scissors like this. Then we remove the isolation or insulation. I don't know what it's called. So these are now ready to be joined together. I'm going to join all the red wires together. And we also have to cut this one. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to put on a heat shrink. A big heat shrink, mind you. It's got to go over all of these wires, so I need a big heat shrink. And I'm putting this onto here. And then we are removing this. And we are putting this on top of here. I need another clamp. But we gotta remember that we have other ESCs to power as well. So I will run a small wire from here into the other smaller ESCs. If I can get this one up here. You gotta work fast because the heat shrink is already starting to shrink. There we go. Alright, so that's the red wire. Now we do the same for the black wire. Alright, so now we have most of the ESCs on one battery. And this cable will go to the other ESCs. We'll put those in right now. Alright, so if you by any chance are using these ESCs yourself, you have to know that the female plug, this one, is for the battery. As you can see here, this is a male plug. And here's the male plug on this ESC. However, they use the female plug on these, so don't connect the wrong plug to the battery, because then this will go poof. So I'm going to cut this right here. Now I do this because I want to preserve this plug with the wires. I don't cut it right in here because this plug is usable. Alright, so we are now joining these up together. This time I'm going to just do it like this. Alright, just to show you where we are, we have now connected all the battery red and battery black wires together. So now all of these ESCs will have power once I plug in the battery. And on these 1060 ESCs, we gotta remove this tab right here. On all of the 1060 ESCs. I only have 2 here, so I removed it on them both. Let's see here, I'm going to zoom in. So you only keep the tab for the LiPo. Alright? The reason for this is to keep it into FR mode, which means forward and reverse. That means you don't get a brake function, and you get 100% forward and 100% backward on this ESC. So the next step is to remove all the red wires on these receiver plugs except for one. Alright, I'm going to keep this one, but I'm going to remove the red wire on all of the other ESCs. And I'm going to zoom in now. Okay, so I have removed the red wire on all of them except for this one. So the reason for this is, I guess, if you're using all ESCs, for example, as a 1060, all of these were a 1060 ESC, you probably wouldn't have to remove this red wire, since they're all the same ESC and they have the same BEC output to the receiver, which means that they power the receiver on a certain volts. If you're running with different ESCs, I recommend that you remove the red wire on all of them except for one, because if these are running on different BEC outputs, they will fry the receiver. The receiver will get hot and get damaged. It has happened to me before, and after that I began removing the red wire. It's maybe not necessary, but it's a good precaution to take. Before we install these, I'm just going to put this on-off switches on the sides. It will help with the messy wires, you know. So the electronics are now ready to be put into the loader. However, we need to prepare these wires to join the ESCs, because if you remember, we have male plugs on these, so the ripper wires will need a female plug, and also this wire will need a female plug, and we will need to run a wire all the way up here. These are the female plug that I cut off the ESC earlier. So here we have the ripper and the bucket cylinders here. They are now ready to be connected to their ESC. And all there is left now is to make a wire go through the arms on the front here, all the way back here. And we also gotta connect the lifting motor. And I'm putting these cables onto that as well. So here's what I'm currently doing. I'm moving this long wire for these actuators into a heat shrink tube along the arms here. And I'm actually going to put glue on this on the inside of the arm. And then we are going to run this wire through this hole right here to the inside of the chassis. Alright, so that's all the connectors ready for ESCs. I'm going to put in the ESCs now. I'll connect one by one and try to show you the process as best I can. But first I'm going to take one of the FlySky transmitters and put it here. Oh man, I seem to have received a Chinese radio. There's no way I can read this. Look at this. Man, why did they send me a Chinese one? I always received English ones before. Like this one, it's from the same store. And this one is in English. Yeah. So I guess I will have to look in the manual if there's a way to put other languages on this, or maybe I have to update the firmware. I don't know. I'll have a look at it and see what I can find. Alright guys, it's been a while since I updated the firmware on one of these, but basically you go to the FlySky website and they have this update firmware. You click on that, and then you just plug in the FlySky to your computer. And if I remember correctly, it should be the second to last on this function, no, system menu. You go down and it should be this one. And now I think I'm going to plug this in. Hopefully I don't mess up my brand new FlySky here. Alright, so we found it. And let's just click update and see what happens. Update was successful. Oh yeah, look at that. Ah, perfect. Okay, we're back in business. So before I continue though, I actually bought 2 of these, and the other one is also in Chinese, so I'm going to update that one while I have the program up and everything, so I'll be back. Alright, so now that we have that problem out of the way, we can continue with the build. We will begin plugging in this ESC onto the receiver, and we will put the bind plug, let's see here. We will put the bind plug in the channel that says BVCC on top, and this ESC actually has 2 ports that needs to go into the receiver. This one will go to channel 1, I believe. I'm not sure, but we will find out. And we will put this one in channel 2. So basically, since this is a bi-directional ESC, it controls 2 channels. And I am going to, let's see here. Maybe I'm moving too fast. I'll slow down a bit. So basically what I want this machine to do, this track loader, I want it to simulate high and low gear, okay? So I can switch between high and low gear on this switch. So in order to do that, I have to first configure the transmitter. The first thing I'm going to do is take off the screen lock, because that is so annoying. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to take off, turn down the sound all the way, because I don't like the sounds. There we go. So before we begin binding this receiver onto this transmitter, I'm going to make sure that the sticks mode is correct. I want to drive the tracks with this on this side, and if we run our finger from this side over the screen like this, we get to an overview which shows all the channels, and in here we can check which channels this stick is on. Here you can see that they are on channel 3 and 4. For this to work, I want to run my tracks with this one, so I have to change this one to channel 1 and 2, which is actually on this stick right now. So in order to do that, I go to the system menu and I go down to sticks mode. Here you can see that channel 4 and 3 is on this stick, and if you change this to M3, you get 1 and 2 on this side and 4 and 3 on this side, which is what we want. The reason for this, and I'm going to try to explain, is because if you want to use the low and high speed switch, you have to go to function menu, you have to go to the rate exponential switch, and here you can choose the switch. If you look here, it says SWD, so we are going to choose that and go back, and then you go to rate exponential. This is where you adjust how quick the motors are in the low and high setting, okay? Right now it's in the normal setting, which I will use as a low gear. And if I flip this switch now, it will change to sport. See? It changes here. Alright. So, this is the reason we have to use channel 1 and 2, especially when you want to use this stick, is because you can't change channel 3 in this menu. Okay? So you can't adjust the high and low speed on channel 3, which is why I put 1 and 2 on this stick. So right now we are in low gear, and I want this to be down to, let's say, 70%. And remember, we are using 2 channels here, so we have to adjust channel 2 as well. We will put that down to 70. Perfect. So now what happens when I flip this switch, it turns back to 100, you see? So now we have a working low and high gear. Let's go back. And now that's out of the way, we can begin adjusting where we want everything to be. So basically what I want is, let's begin with these actuators right here on the bucket. I want to operate them with the shoulder switch here, okay? If you can read that, it says VRB. So if we want to use this switch, we have to program this transmitter to recognize the switch first. So we go to function, we scroll down to aux channels, and let's say we plug, let's zoom out a bit, and let's say we plug those actuators on that bucket into channel 5. We press this one, and we know that we are using VRB, right? So here we have VRA. We press this and press VRB. So here we have channel 5 at VRB. And I want to use the ripper on this shoulder, right? Which is VRA. And I'm going to use the ripper at channel 6. So let's scroll to channel 6 and choose VRA. So now that channel 5 and 6 is ready, we can begin putting in the ESCs into the receiver. Alright, so the first thing we do is we bind up the receiver to the transmitter. And I already have the bind plug-in, and I got the ESC with the red wire connected to the transmitter, to the receiver, sorry. So once I plug in this battery, this receiver will begin flashing red. You see? So this receiver is flashing pretty quickly, which means it is in bind mode. So let's put that aside. Let's go to the transmitter. You click this and you go to System and you click RX Bind. Alright. It says bind OK. Now the light is constant. And now you just unplug this bind plug and we are ready to connect everything. Alright, so I'm going to connect the track motors to this ESC now, and usually you have to do some adjustments once you connected everything, but we'll get back to that. So we have the wires for one motor here. Right, so we got the motors connected, and I'm going to plug in the battery now and see if everything is working. You might get lucky sometimes. So when I press forward, all right. So they are moving against each other. So when I press forward, this one is going forward and this one is going backward. So let's try to reverse channel 1, see what happens. Okay, nothing happened. All right, I'm going to take off the battery and I'm going to just swap these channels around and see what happens then. So I plug channel 1 into channel 2 and channel 2 into channel 1. Oh, and this yellow wire right here, this is just a signal wire, okay? So it goes into the same port as the white one. So let's plug in the battery and see what happens. I'm pressing forward. All right, let's go ahead and reverse channels. Okay, so we got it moving forward and backward. Let's try turning. If I turn left, I want it obviously to turn left, but it's not. Of course it's not. All right, so in order to fix this, I will take out the battery and I will swap these motor wires around. Okay, so this motor wires go to this motor right here. So I'm taking out the yellow one and I'm taking out the yellow one on the other side. I'm plugging in this one instead. And I'm doing the same for the blue one. All right. So in theory, I'm pretty sure this will fix the steering problem. So I turned left on the controller and it's turned right. Now if I swap these motors around, it should swap the steering around as well. So let's plug in the battery. Forward, backward, turning left, turning right. Perfect. All right, so that's the track motors. We are now finished with them. Let's connect the rest of this. So next up, I'm going to connect the lifting motor inside here. And it's going to be, let's see here, these two cables right here. And I will connect these to a 1060 ESC. Let's take this one. Right here. Just connecting them. All right. And now I'm going to plug this one. Let's see here. Remember, just drag your finger across the screen and you come to the channels. I want the lifting motor to be on this channel right here. Channel 3. Okay. So this is the ESC I want to use. And I plug this one into channel 3. We heard a beep. So let's try using this motor. Perfect. Now I want this one to lift when I push it down, so I'm going to reverse the channel. Reverse channel 3. Perfect. And also let's test the end switches while we're at it. Perfect. I might have to lift the loader here. Perfect. Alright, so the end switches work and the motor works. So let's move on. We'll now connect the bucket, the cylinders on the bucket. And if you remember, I wanted to use this one, which was set up as channel 5, okay? So we are using one of these smaller 30 amp ESCs for this. I'm going to, let's see here, plug this one in like this, and then this one goes into channel 5. So let's test it. Okay, I think the switch is off. Perfect. All right. Now that we got those working, we can continue plugging in this one, which is the actuators for tilting the bucket. Now I want these ones to be in the other 1060 ESC. So let's begin putting these inside here. I know this is a mess, but I have control of it. It's a controlled mess. Okay, so the bucket tilts actuator is connected to the ESC, and I want this ESC to be on this channel. You can see it's channel 4. So I'm going to connect this into channel 4. Let's switch the ESC on before we try. Perfect. And now the last or final plugin will be the ripper, which will go to this one right here. Let's plug it in and plug this one into channel 6, remember. Let's make sure that this one is on. All right. So the ripper should be over here. Perfect. All right, so that's all the electronics connected, and I'm going to try to make this fit a little better inside here. I'll be back. So here you can see I just stuffed everything in there. I will try to make it look better in the future, I promise, okay? So let's try this on the bench real quick. So here's the bucket lifted maximum and tilting forward maximum. So let's flip it backward. Here's maximum backwards. all the way down. And the ripper. So this bucket is actually a multifunctional bucket, which means you can do different things with it. The first one is obviously you can use it as a normal loading bucket. You can load trucks and stuff with it. And the second function is you can use it as a dozer blade. Like a bulldozer. And you can also use it as a grapple. So it's a very functional bucket. So there's one thing that's annoying me a bit, and we got this slop in the bucket, which is because of these mounting points. I think maybe I messed up the distance on them, but instead of printing new parts, I will unscrew these on both sides, and I will unscrew this actuator shaft a bit. That will make it come out more. I'll show you how I do it. So hopefully this will make it a little tighter. Alright, so you just take the actuator and you unscrew this. I'm going to unscrew it maybe one entire round. Okay, and do the same on the other side. And now I'm going to try reattaching these just to see how it is. It doesn't feel a lot tighter, so I'm going 1/2 round more. Alright, so I'm going to screw these back on and we will see what happened, if it got any tighter or not. So here it is after I unscrewed the actuator shafts a bit. It's a lot tighter now, which is what I wanted to see. So let's move on. We are now mounting up the final parts. I was thinking I should add some lights to this, so I have to put on the lights before I assemble the cabin. So I'm going to glue these onto the roof now, but I have to cut this because it hits the metal parts that I put on the cabin. But no worries. I'll just go ahead and cut it. So these are the lights that I'm putting on here. Now these are some really small and good looking lights in my opinion. Let's see here. There should also be a light switch included. And I've never tried this light switch before, but hopefully it's, yeah, it should be easy. It's just plug in and yeah. So here's the lights on the cabin. I'm going to try to hide the wires inside the cabin by using a piece of a heat shrink. So let's just stuff this in here. Alright, and I'll put a piece of tape inside here to keep the wires from sagging down. And I also have to modify the interior a bit, because the wire will go down here. So I should drill a hole, but I'm just going to cut it carefully. So let's mount the interior and the cabin onto the loader. The cabin is now on, and the only thing left is to assemble the hood and put it on, and then the loader is finished. So I plugged in the lights at channel 7. Let's see here if the screen would stop flickering. There we go. Nope. There. So we go to function and we go down to aux channels. We go to channel 7, and I want to use this switch, which is SWA. Here we go. So channel 7 is now the lights. Alright, so the lights started on. We got this pulsating effect, flicker, and off. Alright, so let's turn it around. Let's put on the final piece here. And there we go. So that's the 973 track loader. Oh wait, we gotta put decals on it. I completely forgot about that. So we level out the arms and let's put the decals on. All right. It is now finished. And wow. So let's just drive it around on the bench a little. Oh yeah, I forgot to test the two-speed switch. So this is full speed in low gear. Let's see if it's faster in high gear. Nah, not really. Maybe a little. But as I said earlier, the ESC for the track motors, it's too weak, so... Alright guys, in the next video I will have this one tested, and I will post a video on how it performs. And yeah, this has been a fun build. I think it looks awesome. Anyway guys, this wraps up this build series, or sort of. I still have to post a video about testing it, but all in all, I'm very happy with this build. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.